US President Trump says Iran has agreed to almost all his terms to halt its nuclear weapons program, with final negotiations expected to resume this weekend as the current ceasefire deadline looms next week. Israel and Lebanon have agreed to a 10-day ceasefire brokered by Trump. But with Israeli troops staying in southern Lebanon, Hezbollah's weapons unresolved and a history of failed truces, lasting peace remains far from guaranteed. Britain and France are co-hosting an international summit on Friday with around 40 nations, including South Korea, to establish a multinational defensive mission to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, with the US notably absent. US President Donald Trump claims a comprehensive nuclear agreement with Iran is imminent. This comes as the US House narrowly rejected a resolution to halt military strikes in the region. Our Kim Do-yeon reports.
US President Donald Trump says a comprehensive agreement with Iran is within reach, claiming Tehran has agreed to almost all American terms to halt its nuclear weapons program. Speaking to reporters on Thursday local time, Trump stated that the two sides are close to finalizing a deal to end the conflict.
We had to make sure that Iran never gets a nuclear weapon. And we're at that. They've agreed to that. They've totally agreed to that. They've agreed to almost everything.
Negotiations are expected to resume this weekend, with Trump naming Islamabad, Pakistan as a potential venue to finalize the agreement.
I would go to Pakistan, yeah. Pakistan has been great. They've been so good. Islamabad, I might go, yeah.
While projecting optimism on the diplomatic front, the U.S. president publicly criticized Pope Leo XIV regarding the ongoing crisis. Trump claimed the pontiff supports Tehran possessing a nuclear weapon, a statement the Vatican has not made, using the assertion to defend its administration's hardline approach.
I'm not fighting with him. The Pope made a statement. He says Iran can have a nuclear weapon. I say Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. And if the Pope looked at the 42,000 people that were killed over the last 2 or 3 months as a protester with no weapons, no nothing, I mean, you take a look at that. So I can disagree with the Pope. I have a right to disagree with the Pope.
Domestically, the Trump administration cleared a major legislative hurdle to maintain its current military posture. The U.S. House of Representatives narrowly rejected a war powers resolution designed to force a halt to U.S. military strikes against Iran. The Democrat-led measure failed in a 214 to 213 vote, allowing current operations to continue without congressional interference as the administration pursues a final negotiated settlement. The ongoing ceasefire, in an attempt to come to an agreement between the U.S. and Iran, will end next Wednesday. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
Israel and Lebanon have agreed to a 10-day ceasefire following 6 weeks of fighting between Israeli forces and Hezbollah. But with Israeli troops set to remain in southern Lebanon and key conditions unresolved, questions remain over how long the truce will hold. Lee Seung-jae has more.
U.S. President Donald Trump announced on Thursday that Israel and Lebanon have agreed to a 10-day ceasefire after 6 weeks of fighting between Israeli forces and the Iran-backed group Hezbollah. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu confirmed Israel's participation, but said troops will remain in a 10-kilometer security zone in southern Lebanon, signaling no immediate withdrawal during the truce.
I agreed to a pause, or more accurately, to a temporary ceasefire of 10 days, to try to move forward with the agreement we began discussing during the ambassadors' meeting in Washington.
Hezbollah expressed conditional support, saying any ceasefire must include a complete halt to attacks across Lebanon and no freedom of movement for Israeli forces. The group warned that any continued military presence would justify armed resistance. The conflict began in early March following joint U.S.-Israeli strikes on Iran, which prompted Hezbollah to launch rockets into northern Israel. Since then, more than 2,000 people in Lebanon have been killed, over 1 million displaced, and tens of thousands of homes damaged or destroyed. Israel reports limited civilian casualties, but confirmed military losses in the fighting. In the hours before the ceasefire, both sides continued cross-border strikes. Rare direct talks were also held in Washington, with Trump proposing a future White House meeting with Netanyahu and Lebanese President Joseph Aoun. However, major issues remain unresolved, especially the future of Hezbollah's weapons. Lebanese officials say disarmament cannot be forced and must come through negotiation, raising doubts about whether the ceasefire will lead to lasting peace. Previous ceasefires between Israel and Hezbollah have failed to hold, with clashes continuing even after agreements took effect, suggesting this truce may offer only a temporary pause in the conflict. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
President Lee Jae-myung is set to attend a virtual meeting led by the UK and France over freedom of navigation in the Strait of Hormuz. A senior Blue House official said on Thursday that free and safe passage in Hormuz serves the interest of all parties and is crucial to Korea's national interests. The international talks are set to take place late Friday, Korea time. President Lee is expected to send a message on energy supply and whole stance on the Middle East situation. More than 70 entities have reportedly been invited, including international organizations. An official from the International Monetary Fund said Thursday that South Korea has substantial energy buffers, but remains exposed to supply shocks from the Middle East conflict. Speaking at a regional economic outlook briefing, IMF official Thomas Helbling noted that Seoul has taken proactive steps to cushion the impact, including securing reserves and diversifying energy sources, even as disruptions in the Strait of Hormuz continue to threaten global shipments. Still, he warns that South Korea shares a broader regional vulnerability as a major energy importer, leaving it sensitive to rising oil and gas prices. The ongoing US-Israeli war against Iran has already pushed energy costs up, fueling inflation concerns and increasing the levels of risk for Asia's import-dependent economies, including South Korea. The South Korean government will release public stockpiles of urea and urea water by the end of April to address inventory shortages amid the Middle East crisis. This is according to Deputy Prime Minister Chul on Friday, who was presiding over an emergency meeting online from Washington, D.C. Urea water is used in diesel cars. The minister also cited rising oil prices and supply chain disruptions as critical threats to national competitiveness. To mitigate these shocks, the government will provide tax relief for oil refiners, including deferring customs and value-added tax payments for up to 9 months. Minister Neukgu also ordered the rapid execution of the supplementary budget. President Lee Jae-myung will be departing on state visits to India and Vietnam this weekend. Energy security is expected to be high on the agenda during his summits with the leaders of the two countries. Our Blue House correspondent Yoon Jung-min takes a closer look at what's on the agenda.
Starting Sunday, the South Korean president will embark on a two-nation week-long trip to other countries in Asia. His itinerary will first take him to India, where he will meet with Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Monday for a summit, involving expanded talks, exchange of MOUs, and a joint press conference. The leaders are set to discuss cooperation in the areas of trade, shipbuilding, AI, the defense industry, and culture, on top of energy supplies amid the Middle East conflict.
As a leading country in the global south and a fast-growing country, India is a key partner as we extend our pragmatic diplomacy centered on the national interest.
Lee will be hosted by Modi for lunch. Last year, the two leaders met on the sidelines of the G7 and G20 summits. On Tuesday, Lee will arrive in Hanoi, and the next day, he will sit down with To Lam, Vietnam's top leader and general secretary of the Communist Party. The summit will include the signing of MOUs, a joint press conference, and a state dinner. High on the agenda is cooperation in trade, energy supplies, critical minerals, and culture.
Following General Secretary To Lam's visit to Korea last year as President Lee's first state guest, President Lee will be the first state guest to be hosted by Vietnam's new leadership. It is expected to be a new turning point for a co-prosperity vision and the future of the two countries.
On Thursday, the South Korean leader will meet Vietnamese Prime Minister Lee Min-hung and National Assembly Chairman Chen Tain-man, respectively ranked number 2 and number 3 in the country's power structure. During his trips to India and Vietnam, President Lee will also meet business leaders and Koreans living in those countries. He will return home on Friday. After hosting several foreign leaders this month, including those from Europe, President Lee will head to Asia as he extends his diplomatic outreach amid a crucial time in geopolitics. Yoon Jung-min, Arirang News.
This year marks the 75th anniversary of the UN Memorial Cemetery in Korea, the only UN cemetery in the world. Established during the Korean War, it stands today as both a resting place for fallen soldiers and a symbol of peace for future generations. Our Kim Bo-kyung visited the site.
The only UN Memorial Cemetery in the world, where a 17-year-old Australian soldier lies after fighting during the so-called Forgotten War. The UN Memorial Cemetery in Korea marked its 75 years of history since its establishment in 1951. After being under UNC and UN management until 1974, it began to be managed jointly by 11 countries under the name of the International Commission. Following the transition of authority, most of the archives were transferred overseas, but the UNMCK was able to obtain some this year.
네, 20장의 사진이 있는데 이 중 가장 눈여겨볼 만한 사진은 혹시 뭘까요?
저는 뭐 다 좋습니다만 그중에서 가장 눈에 띄는 거는 이 사진인 것 같습니다. 왜냐하면 1951년도 4월 6일 75년 전에 유엔 기념공원이 처음 만들어진 이 헌정식하는 사진인데요. 그 당시에 그 유엔군 사령관, 메가드 사령관 다음이죠. 그분이 지금 현재 경례를 하면서 여기에 그 헌정식을 갖다가 대표하는 이런 모습입니다. 그래서 그 소위 말하는 여기에 계시는 분들에 대해서 존경의 표시도 되고, 그리고 우리 유엔 기금의 75년을 처음 알리는 신호도 돼서 소위 말하는 저로서는 여기를 담당하고 있는 저로서는 굉장히 소중한 그런 사진으로 제가 여기고 있습니다.
네.
예.
The pictures of soldiers looking at the last remains of a deceased comrade to ascertain his identity, and the interment ceremony of Lieutenant Colonel Marinus den Oden, the commanding officer of the Netherlands forces, show how sincere the country was to honor the fallen soldiers even during the war. After so many years, more than 2,300 fallen soldiers from 14 countries have been laid to rest. The UNMCK honors the anniversary of each of the soldiers' deaths with a flag and a chrysanthemum that day. The place started as a site to remember fallen soldiers during the Korean War, but for 75 years it has become more than that. Now it is a site for diplomacy, a site that delivers a message of peace to us and to future generations.
So I was checking the ages of the soldiers, between 20 and 24 years old, coming from different countries. They are really gone in the flower of their age, and I always question myself about why. It's the question to every war. I still cannot find an answer to it. Especially today, we are also witnessing the war in Iran, in Lebanon. So this connects a lot with each other.
Serving as a meaningful venue where global leaders can better understand a key chapter of Korean history and strengthen bilateral ties, the custodian now hopes to see more descendants visit and connect with this place.
So many visitors who came here are a little bit older generations. I would like the young generations to come here to know what place it is. So as a part of that the effort, this year we are making effort to collaborate with the very much influential cartoonist.
From a resting place for the fallen to a symbol of peace, as the UNMCK looks ahead to the next 75 years, it hopes this place will continue to resonate across generations. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News, Busan.
The wolf named Neukgu, which escaped from Daejeon Old Zoo on April 8th, has been captured alive after 10 days. Daejeon Fire Headquarters and search authorities said the wolf was spotted at approximately 11:45 p.m. Thursday night in a waterway about 2 kilometers away from the zoo. Search teams successfully captured the animal using a tranquilizer gun at around 12:45 a.m. Friday morning. Daejeon City officials stated that the wolf was immediately transported to the veterinary hospital within World. Medical examinations confirmed that both its pulse and body temperature are within normal ranges. Neukgu's escape caused public concern for the animal's safety as well as the general public's, as people could be attacked by the wolf. AI agents, systems that autonomously plan and carry out assigned tasks, are becoming active in professional and industrial settings. Meanwhile, this shift is expected to heighten concerns over security. Cha Yun-kyung reports.
College student Kang So-yeon is now using an AI agent for her coursework. Once an objective is entered, the AI independently plans and executes the entire process from background research and coding to drafting presentation material.
Previously, I tended to ask generative AI one question at a time just to get simple code. Now, I find myself using a specialized agent for things like dissertation summaries whenever I have a complex question.
An AI agent is a system that autonomously plans and carries out the necessary steps when an assignment goal is given. Unlike passive generative AI that only responds to specific prompts, agents are characterized by their ability to make decisions and take action by connecting with various apps and systems. AI agents are also becoming increasingly active in professional and industrial settings. For instance, a financial company is planning to develop an internal AI agent to handle tasks such as code generation, error correction, and personalized service recommendations.
In the past, developers had to spend a lot of time manually searching for solutions. Now, we can solve problems more efficiently using AI agents.
Experts predict that AI agents will advance beyond simple administrative support to a stage where they design and execute entire business processes, including formulating investment strategies and establishing financial goals. However, this shift is also expected to heighten concerns over system malfunctions and external cyber attacks. As AI can reason and act independently, these agents will inevitably hold significant authorization to access deep-level internal systems. Given the immense impact that a potential breach or error could have, thorough preparation against these risks becomes more crucial than ever. Cha Yun-kyung, Arirang News.
This is The World Now, bringing you everything you need to know from around the globe. Russia launched its deadliest attack on Ukraine this year overnight on Wednesday, killing at least 17 people. The massive wave of drone and missile strikes across Kyiv, Odessa, and Dnipro also left more than 100 people wounded. In Kyiv, a drone slammed into an 18-story apartment building in the early morning hours. 4 people died in the capital, 8 in Odessa, where a high-rise residential building took a direct hit, and 4 more in Dnipro, where Russian strikes set residential buildings ablaze. Rescue operations were still ongoing Thursday, with officials warning the toll could rise. Ukraine struck back at Russia, hitting 2 oil depots in Crimea and a major oil refinery port on the Black Sea. President Zelensky said the attack proved Russia deserves no easing of sanctions and called on the international community to deliver every promised package of military assistance without delay. The White House is moving to give federal agencies access to Anthropic's most powerful and closely guarded AI model, Mythos, even as senior officials warn the tool could dramatically increase cybersecurity risk if it falls into the wrong hands. The White House Office of Management and Budget told officials at the Pentagon, Treasury, Justice Department, and other top agencies on Tuesday that safeguards are being put in place, with more details in the coming weeks. Anthropic has so far limited Mythos to a small group of technology and financial firms after internal testing showed the model could uncover the kind of critical software vulnerabilities that only the world's best hackers could find. Europe has roughly 6 weeks of jet fuel left. That's according to the head of the International Energy Agency on Thursday, who warned that if the Strait of Hormuz remains blocked, flight cancellations could begin soon. Calling the current situation the largest energy crisis the world has ever faced, the IEA chief said that without a permanent reopening of the waterway by end of May, countries could slide toward recession. He added that even with a peace deal, war damage to the region's energy facilities could take up to 2 years to fully repair. 6 days after splashing down in the Pacific, the Artemis II crew faced the cameras in Houston on Thursday and said that a landing on the moon is closer than people think. Mission Commander Reed Wiseman said if a lunar lander had been aboard, at least 3 of his crewmates would have tried to land on the moon right then and there. Wiseman called the next step technically challenging, but absolutely doable and coming soon. Chu Ji-hyun, Arirang News.
We had cloudy skies to start out this morning, and many southern regions will see rain today as the recent early season heat takes a short break. Rain that started across 전라남도 province and Jeju Island will reach 충청도 province by the afternoon. In fact, Jeju Island could see up to 80 millimeters of heavy downpours along with thunderstorms. 충청남도, 경상남도, and 전라남도 province might get 20 to 60 millimeters through tomorrow. Further north will be under cloudy skies with a dry weather advisory in place here in the capital. And today's cool down will not last that long. Inner regions will turn mostly sunny this weekend and temperatures will rise again. By Sunday, Seoul will be getting up to 28 degrees Celsius. But as for this afternoon, Seoul makes it to 21 degrees. Gwangju will be getting up to 17 degrees Celsius. Then unlike this week, next week looks more like the season norms under mostly sunny skies.
That's all we have for today's noon edition of Arirang News. Thank you for watching. Arirang News will be back at 5 p.m. Korea time. Stay tuned.